What up, guys? What up? Welcome to the daily live stream. Post-Christmas, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. You enjoyed your holiday, your time with your family. Got a couple of news clips, jumping right back into the regularly scheduled program, getting ready for the new year. Shout out to everybody coming in the chat. Hit that like button for me. Say where you're watching from. Be interactive in the chat for me. Do me a favor, keep your comments short, cordial, respectful, so you don't flag the AI mod. Yeah, and some of the clips I got, pretty motivated to show you guys. Once the holidays are over, we're back into the regular swing of things, which is what I love. So New Year's is coming up, counting down to New Year's. Always love the start of a new year, even though I like to kill it all year long. So yeah, let's play some clips and get into the live stream. You guys be interactive in the chat, say what's up, and hit that like button for us most of all. And make sure you hit that subscribe button to join the fam. We're doing this every single day except Sunday, so shout out to you guys. Let's jump right in. What you want? My dog's harassing me. You want to say hi to the people? They don't want to see you. They don't want to see you. I can tell you contributed to this wayward behavior. Huh? I can tell you contributed to his wayward behavior. Yeah.
We live for the moment, the kind that changes history.
It's been an incredibly busy day here at the White House.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars. No more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
We are learning new details about the deadly strike operation that President Trump says he ordered on Islamic State terrorists in Nigeria. Listen to this.
Yeah, we'll get into all of the claims that they've made. But Donald Trump, the peace president, has once again delivered peace, or at least pieces of people and buildings blown apart by our weapons in yet another country around the world, because the peace president seemingly can't go more than 2 or 3 weeks without starting another foreign conflict. In this particular case, as you saw, it is in Nigeria over what he is calling a genocide against Christians in that country, which we're going to dive into the facts, see if we can figure out what's really going on. But Cenk, let's start with your 2 cents.
Yeah, so wait till you see what's actually happening in Nigeria. This idea of Muslim versus Christian is kind of hilarious. There's some of that going on, but there's such a wide variety. I can't wait to tell you about it now that I know all about Nigerian politics and tribalism and bandits and the different kinds of attacks that are happening there. So that's part of this story. I think that, unfortunately, Israel is another part of this story. Even though it's Nigeria, it's always Israel. And I'll explain how. And of course, the hypocrisy of Trump on anti-war is enormous. We have a poll about it in a minute for you. And John's 3rd or 4th cent here is that he knows why this happened. And I'm very curious about that as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you have read up a lot and become an expert on this topic. I've read a little bit, but I'm not an expert. I thought that it would be elitist of me to know more about this country we're going to war with than the president does. So I know next to nothing. So I feel like I'm on Trump's level with this. But anyway, he posted this. This is Christmas Day. He launched this conflict. That's great. Tonight, at my direction as commander-in-chief, we launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum, saying that they are viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even capital C centuries. Blah, blah, blah. I previously warned the terrorists, the Department of War, as he calls it, that's its preferred pronouns, executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. They're not going to let radical Islamic terrorism prosper. May God bless our military and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists. I think he gets the holiday spirit. I do think that he gets that. So, look, we're going to dive into the facts about the supposed genocide. Also, bear in mind, we're going to talk about the facts about this being ISIS terrorists, because that's not necessarily as cut and dried as he would have you believe either. A lot of this feels pretty dishonest, but let's see if we can rewind a little bit, figure out how we got to the point that the United States is launching what, were it to happen to us, we would label it obviously as a war. For some reason, when the United States bombs a country, it's just like a cool thing you do on Christmas Day. It's not warmongering or anything. But anyway, it seems like a Fox News segment about a month and a half, 2 months ago was what kind of kicked this thing off. And in this segment, we're going to show you a bit. John Roberts had on Ryan Brown, the CEO of Open Doors US, an organization supporting persecuted Christians. And take a look at this.
Open Doors keeps track of Christians who are killed around the world in religious violence. Here's your statistics for 2025. 4,476 Christians murdered so far worldwide. 3,100 of them in Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria is a country that the United States has a fairly close relationship with. Does this president need to step up and do more, or does the United States at large need to do more? I mean, what could the U.S. do to try to stem the killings?
I love the distinction he makes between the president doing more and the United States doing more. Like Donald Trump's going to fly over there and deal with it single-handedly or something. But anyway, they're hoping to get the United States military involved. More conflicts. Good for Fox News, good for the defense industry and all of that. And almost immediately after that segment aired, which Donald Trump was obviously watching because he's never not watching TV, he posted this onto Truth Social, saying that if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, apparently the Christians are the only ones that need to be protected. The other people dying there, it doesn't matter. The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and this is going to be a literal verbatim quote in case you're listening, and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing, the president of the United States says, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. He's saying basically there's cherished Christians, warning, the Nigerian government better move fast. So he waited about 6 weeks. I guess that's something. And they did these strikes, killing at least 5 people, leaving over 30 seriously wounded. And I think at this point, Jake, we should probably get into the conversation around this, because the reason that he seems to be interested in this is the reason that Fox News was interested in it, is that they can spin a very selective interpretation of the conflict to make it seem as if this is people hunting down Christians. And of course, the right is always looking for opportunities to feel that they are an aggrieved minority. That's why they are saying this about Nigeria. It's why they have pretended there's this genocide against white farmers in South Africa. On the Damage Report this morning, I pointed out that I also think it's convenient to them to have these narratives at a time when they've probably begun to feel, after a couple of years of what's going on with Gaza, kind of feel like maybe they're on the wrong side of this whole thing. These people sticking up for, Palestinian kids who are being killed certainly look like the good guys in this story. Wouldn't it be good if they had a conflict they could pretend puts them on the right side of calling out genocide? So what do you know? What is a fairly complicated civil conflict in Nigeria gets reinterpreted as a genocide against Christians, which is more palatable for their domestic audience. But what do you think?
Yeah, so we're going to play a series of macabre, fun games here about this, okay? Because all this is disastrous, but we're going to nevertheless do a poll about it, and I'm going to poll John, and he doesn't know the geography of Nigeria apparently as well as I do, so that'll be fun, and you can play along as well. The first poll is on TYT.com, and we're asking, when Trump said he was anti-war, what did he mean? A, I'm going to bomb Iran. B, I'm going to bomb Nigeria. C, I'm going to bomb Venezuela. D, I'm going to bomb every country I can think of and see if I can still get people to believe I'm anti-war. Okay,
ding, ding.
Okay, that's a tough one. A lot of bombings for the anti-war president. So take your time with that one on TYT.com. All right, now we move to the interesting little thing that John alluded to there, which was, well, they said on Fox News there, 3,100 Christians killed in Nigeria. They didn't say who killed them. Oh, that's interesting. So we're going to come back to that in the midst of this quiz and give you a sense of what's happening in Nigeria. First of all, quick fun facts about Nigeria. Split nearly evenly between Christians and Muslims, about 53% Muslim, 45% Christians. Anytime there's a split like that, you're going to have trouble no matter what the religions are or the backgrounds or the ethnicities are. And there has been some trouble among those clans. But that is not the only thing dividing Nigeria. In fact, Nigeria is a gigantic country, largest in Africa, 230 million people, 300 different languages spoken. Now, that's going to play a big role in what we're going to describe here. All right, so John, there are several different areas of Nigeria. There's the northeast where there's Boko Haram, a very dangerous Muslim fundamentalist terrorist group, okay? So they're a big problem in northeastern Nigeria, often attacking the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government has Muslims and Christians in it, but it's, again, a majority Muslim country. Nevertheless, Boko Haram is attacking within that country, as Muslim fundamentalists tend to do, right? When they go in the jihad violent direction. Okay, so then we've got in the southeast a massive separatist war that occurred that killed nearly 1 million people, and so a lot of Christians died there. Now, it's Christian separatists that have done that war, so take that for what it might be. Now we go to the northwest. In the northwest, there's bandits. And so the bandits are of different varieties, tribes, clans, etc. And they do a lot of different kind of crime. It originally started as a vigilante group, but then developed into basically a mob mentality, which is usually what happens once you go towards violence. So they started doing different crimes, including kidnappings. And there they have kidnapped 52 Christians out of a Catholic school recently. Aha! So that's your anti-Muslim. Now, turns out they also kidnapped 25 Muslim students from a Muslim school because they're banditos, they're bandits. Okay. So then you go to central Nigeria, and in central Nigeria, we have a war between the farmers and the herders. I mean, you want to talk about old school. Herders versus farmers is like the oldest battle there is. It happened in Central Asia. It happened in Scotland. And so they're doing that battle and they're hacking away at each other. Now, the problem is that the farmers are largely Christian. The herders are largely Muslim. So that gets into some tribal and religious issues. But what people noticed is actually the people grabbing the land the most are just wealthy folks from Nigeria who are using the farming and the herding and the Christianity and the Muslim and all that stuff as an excuse to do more land acquisition. Okay.
Sounds like America.
Now, John, out of all those different problematic places in Nigeria, where do you think we bombed? The northeast, the northwest, the southeast, or central Nigeria? Now, a lot of Christians dying in a lot of those areas. So, and a lot of Muslims dying in a lot of those areas. So where do you think we bombed?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I was not expecting to be quizzed. And now I'm really second guessing myself, but I was fairly certain up until about 90 seconds ago that it was the Northwest.
Yeah. You are correct. We bombed the bandits in Northwest. Nice job. So the bandits have no religious, affiliation necessarily. Like I said, they kidnap Christian and Muslim students for ransom. They're mainly just criminals. Boko Haram's in the Northeast. We didn't bomb them. The people that killed 1 million people in the Southeast are mainly Christians, so we didn't bomb them. And the landowners that are stealing everything in the middle of Nigeria, we certainly didn't bomb them.
Obviously not.
Right.
Well, first of all, Cenk, can we just point out, and if you're MAGA or whatever, feel free to disagree in the comments. Do you believe that Donald Trump could have extemporaneously given a cogent breakdown of the conflicts across Nigeria like Cenk just did? He wasn't reading that off a script. Do you think Donald Trump could have done that? And if he had done it, do you think he could have done it without referencing winning Pennsylvania 3 times in a row or something like that? Come on.
Guys, 3 days into this game, and I have uninstalled all other games in my phone.
Anyway.
So, forget saying it extemporaneously. Does Donald Trump know 10% of that?
Yeah.
No. So apparently he saw a report on Fox News a little while back that said that they were killing Christians in Nigeria. He's like, so let's bomb it. So that's part of the answer. I think Israel's part of the answer. But John, You said you had part of the answer.
Yeah.
Is it the distraction you mentioned earlier, or is it something else?
No, I mean, I'm only about 30% serious, but 6 weeks ago, he says, if you keep killing Christians or whatever, we're going to do this. That's quite a while ago. What's closer? Nicki Minaj appearing at the Turning Point USA thing and talking once again about genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Now, she paid a price for it. She supposedly lost something like 10 million followers on Instagram and has in fact fled Instagram following that. But perhaps she got her ultimate goal, which is, because she called Donald Trump hot on stage, fluffed his ego a little bit, and her number one political issue, all of a sudden the American government snaps into action, starts doing strikes within like 6 days of her appearance on stage.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So your theory dovetails with mine to some degree. So
I'm gonna have to fact check that one. Did you guys know she lost 10 million subscribers or followers? I feel like 10 million's a lot. I don't know. I actually don't know how many Nicki Minaj has, so I would have to go fact check that. But I'm like, once he said that, I was like, ooh, 10 million. Like, dude, I know she's been getting a lot of backlash since she was with Erica Kirk, but 10 million's a lot. I'm like, that people are mad.
Under the rubric of everything is Israel. So here, I think the number one group pushing this in America is Israel First. And why do I say that? Number one, my evidence, among other things, and it's just circumstantial, as you'll see here. I'm certainly not claiming I have definitive proof and et cetera, right? But number one, social media reaction. So before the bombings, there was a lot of talk of, for genocide. Why aren't we doing anything about the genocide in place X, Y, Z, right? They've been saying that for a long time. And recently, the momentum picked up for Nigeria. Forget the genocide in Gaza. The real genocide is by banditos in northwestern Nigeria. No, it's the bandits, the Nigerians. They're the real terrorists. And so, and it's not to say there isn't terrorism in Nigeria. There is, right? And there could be. There was, I think, 8,000 people killed overall last year. I think more Muslims than Christians in Nigeria, if I remember that right. But just don't quote me on that. You can look it up yourself.
We can show the data going back to 2020. If we bring up graphic 8, as you discussed, it does the breakdown of the last 5 years, basically.
Okay, great. Let's show that so you can see the real facts and the exact facts, right? And so you're seeing that there on the screen. Meanwhile, obviously, in Gaza, there's 70,000 dead at a bare minimum. But the idea here is distract, and the Israelis believe that things have gotten religious, partly because they pushed the religion angle here nonstop. No, if you blame Israel, you're blaming the Jews. You're blaming the Jews, right? And make everything about religion. It's the dirty Muslims. The real problem is the Muslims. And I told you 3 months ago, there was a propaganda campaign started, and all of Israel first did it at the same time. The real issue is in Israel. The real issue is Muslim terrorists, and Israel's at the forefront of protecting you against the dirty, savage Muslims. And the bigotry towards Muslims went into hyperdrive, with no brakes in the car at all. And now this is another wave of, no, the real terrorists are the Muslims in Nigeria. And if you care about religion, you should care about protecting the Christians in Nigeria from the Muslims. Remember, don't think about Israel. Don't think about our slaughter of the Muslims. Only care about hating Muslims. And we've got a good opportunity here in Nigeria where we can get you to hate them and pretend that it's only violence against Christians and that that's the real problem in America. And of course, John, among the 100 things wrong with that logic is, yes, but we're not funding any of that in Nigeria. Whatever atrocious attacks are happening by Muslims or Christians or bandits or farmers or herders in Nigeria, we didn't pay for any of that. Whereas we paid for all of Israel's genocide and all of their war crimes and all of their wars.
Yeah, it is ironic to be told by people who have some sort of biological opposition to ever exercising empathy that those of us using it actively should be using even more of it in more circumstances. First of all, lead by example and not just opportunistically like in this. And you're totally right. It's not like, first of all, yeah, we should acknowledge conflicts in other areas. But as you point out, it's not exactly the same thing. We are much more directly implicated in one of these attacks than the others. Also, it's the sheer amount of death over a very small period of time. There are a lot of substantive differences between these conflicts. But let me also say, in closing, like the fact that if you actually care about the Christians that have died, it is a tragedy that these people have died. it's just an equal tragedy to the tragedy of the more Muslims who have died in that conflict. It's terrible that all of these people are dying. And it would be one thing if Donald Trump was saying, I've been...
I think we all know it's terrible that anybody a part of any religion would die. Here's what he's missing. Usually how persecuted the Christian religion is. So most of the time, we don't see in another country where they're killing like 15,000 Muslims, right? Or 30,000 Muslims, or they just ran into a school and they took like 24,000 people that worship Krishna. Usually it's the Christian religion that's getting that persecuted. So I think he's just missing the point that when you really just take a look at the other religions historically, it's not that they haven't been persecuted at all. It's just that the Christian religion experiences it at a very high rate.
Really paying attention to Nigeria. It's a lot of chaos. They feel terrible for that country. So we're going to get involved and we're going to try to do the right thing and take down some of these bandits or whatever. But that's not what he's doing. He's not being honest. And does anyone actually believe that he even gives a damn about the Christians of Nigeria? You think Donald Trump would spend 5 minutes talking to a group of Nigerian Christians? You think he actually gives a damn any more than he cares about white farmers from South Africa? He doesn't even care about that. It's a convenient thing that he knows some of the conspiratorial people in his base love to talk about on Twitter. So it's easy. He could say, Pete Hegseth, go bomb him or whatever. I don't care. I don't want to hear anything about it. It's the dishonesty and how obviously they're using people's lives or deaths just to distract or to earn some points. It's just gross. And to then hear people get pissed off at us because we care about what's happening in Gaza when this is clearly so artificial, so just self-serving the way that they approach this. Being told that we're not exercising empathy in the right way is disgusting. Apologies. I know that we're over. Any final thoughts before we go to the break?
Nope.
Okay.
Other than don't go to war with Nigeria.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
If you're watching this right now, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears was responsible for... Good morning, everybody. Happy Christmas Eve to you on this Wednesday, December 24th, 2025. I'm Dave Neal here, and I got...
All right, shout out to Dave Neal, channel favorite. Shout out to you, Dave. Thanks for the content. He reacted to Alex Jones responding to Candace Owens. I think he did a great take reacting to it, so let's take a listen.
All your news for your rush hour ride to work. That's right. We're not taking a day off. We're coming to you with all of the tea. We've got a lot going on with the Candace Owens conspiracy as she's trying to unearth the truth as to who was responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. Fellow conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is trying to debunk Candace. Now Candace responds to that. So I'm going to share all these updates. It is probably the more fascinating story that exists outside of the Epstein universe, which we also have updates to. So we're going to get all of that for you and more, and it starts right now on The Rush. So before we get into what Alex Jones had to say, let's actually go to this. We've got a Powerball tonight of $1.7 billion. Put that in your stocking. Have a listen to this.
There is no big winner after last night's drawing. The jackpot has jumped to $1.7 billion with the next drawing on Christmas Eve. The prize would be the fourth largest in U.S. lottery history. The price isn't much, by the way.
Yeah, there it is. So it's $1.7 billion. Let's do a deal. If you win, buy me an elf costume that fits. How about that? Okay. And, cut me 1%. Tithe to your favorite podcast, will you? All right, let's go into Candace. So she's got a response to Alex Jones. We covered this story yesterday. Candace Owens interviewed this guy who claimed to be at this military base, and he thinks he saw 95 to 99% accuracy. He thinks he saw Erica Kirk the night before Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Now, if you guys want more in-depth research about this other than what Dave Neal is saying, just go to Candace's Truth Social and you can see the really long post that she did. She also listed, I believe it was a letter of some sort that she also put with it, and she gives all the details. So if you want to see that, I would encourage you guys to actually go on her social media so you can read that post for yourself.
nation. He also makes claim that there was a congressional person there and Charlie Kirk's head of security. I mean, it was a pretty bold claim, right? And so then Alex Jones called Candace out. Now, Candace responds with this, says, Fort Huachuca confirmed. Find your favorite podcaster who joined the psychological operation to convince you Mitch was lying about having been at Fort Huachuca on 9/9 because I have just received the incident report. Remember, Mitch said he was at first taken outside by Captain Neff and questioned for a long time. After a long while, they made a decision to call the military police and report him as a possible bomb threat. As Mitch maintained at that stage, there is, of course, a paper trail, and here we have it. Bomb dogs called at 11:17 a.m. Candace goes, I always believed Mitch's story of what happened on that morning because he supplied overwhelming evidence with metadata and the stamps. Now, so and this is where I kind of get a little confused because it's not about whether this guy Mitch was there at the military base. It's whether Erica Kirk was there. And to me, it's like, if you think you saw Erica, wouldn't you know for sure? And wouldn't there be surveillance videos and whatnot? So either way, this is in response to Alex Jones getting involved. And Alex Jones is doing his work to debunk the military planes, the Egyptian planes. No response yet from Candace Owens. But here is the report. And, we get responses from this. Candace says, we are winning the psychological war our government is waging against us. Now listen, I'm not paid for by the government. I don't think Alex Jones is. I think most people are just kind of, I don't know, skeptical, right? To say, okay, Candace making some pretty big claims. We're going to need to see a little bit more. If this guy actually believes Erica Kirk was there the night before Charlie Kirk's death, what does that even mean? And Candace interviewed him. Candace didn't make those claims, just to be clear. So then we have a response. Robert Barnes says, I think I'm really just insane. Kanye-style defense is gaining credibility. Robert Barnes, the lawyer, kind of looking at this. And then Alex Jones says, the point is the Republican congressman your quote-unquote source claimed was there was in Washington, D.C. on C-SPAN that day. You've been caught building yet another straw man. So this is big. This isn't some random commenter. This is Alex Jones here saying, no, Candace, you've kind of made this whole thing out of nothing. And by the way, we'll get into the contents of that report, but it is a little kooky. So Alex Jones then responds last night and says, breaking, Candace Owens has been caught red-handed, falsely claiming that Nevada Congressman Amadei took part in a secret meeting at Fort Huachuca Army Base in Arizona the day before Charlie Kirk's death. The public instantly pointed out that Rep. Could be observed throughout the day on September 9th working in different committee rooms and on the House floor while he was supposedly in Arizona plotting against Charlie Kirk. Owens has now changed the subject and claimed victory in the psychological war by releasing proof that her source was on the base. We would soon expect her to claim that her source also observed the Easter Bunny plotting Charlie Kirk's assassination at Fort Huachuca. And again, that's Alex Jones. He was very kind, right? He was very kind initially 2 days ago when he was like, Candace, I love you, but we need to look into this. Now he's kind of taking more of an approach of gloves are off, saying, no, Candace, you're wrong here. And then Alex Jones provides his, evidence right there. And there you have it. Now people are looking into what was said by this guy who Candace interviewed, and yeah, he was looking kooky. He showed up on the base and says he was being threatened by cartels and he needed to talk to someone. I mean, they literally called the bomb threats on him. So I'm not saying he doesn't have credibility. I'm just saying it's people have ulterior motives, when they want to go on shows like Candace's. It could be someone who's seeking attention, or someone who's paranoid and schizophrenic, or any number of issues. Or it could be that this guy saw Erica Kirk the night before the murder. That could also be true. 95%, according to him. But he was wearing glasses. Candace just posted the incident report pretending that it's proof her Fort Huachuca story is real. This is hilarious, says Cinema Shogun. Not only does the report not confirm her fake theory, it also proves that her fake whistleblower is an absolute nut job. Apparently, Mitch showed up at the fort acting strange and freaked some people out. Mitch entered one of the buildings there with a suspicious backpack, talking crazy about being followed by cartel assassins. That's why he was detained. Not because he stumbled upon a secret military meeting outside about killing Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens just debunked herself and is too stupid to realize it. All right, listen, some heavy accusations being thrown around out there. And then Alex Jones responds with bingo. I think that's the wildest response. Alex Jones no longer playing nice with Candace Owens. So listen, say what you want about this Christmas season, but if you're a conspiracy theorist and you love drama, Alex, Candace, this guy in Fort Huachuca, have they given you the gift of an absolute train wreck? But we'll see how it all plays out. I've been saying this, we'll see how it all plays out. I don't know what's coming next. But I do want to get into this feel-good story. We have hopefully a feel-good story. We've got an update to the Nickelodeon star who was spotted definitely having a drug and mental health issue, living homeless. And here's Sean Weiss, of course, the goalie from Mighty Ducks, a classic from my childhood, and he has since gotten clean himself. He called to help out the Nickelodeon star. Have a listen.
I have received many messages about Taylor Chase. I reached out to some friends of mine, and we have a bed for him at a detox, and we have a place for him to go and get long-term treatment thanks to my buddy Mike Jordan at 1111 Recovery. All we need to do now is find him. I'm not in Los Angeles, or I would go look for him myself. We hear he's on La Sierra at Riverside.
So they find out where this guy is, the former Nickelodeon star, and they do the work to like find people that can try to help out and get there. And how about this? Daniel Curtis Lee, who starred on the Nickelodeon series with Tyler, shared with TMZ an emotional video of him checking Tyler into a Riverside, California motel. So this is a really, hopefully the beginning of a really good story. Although if anyone knows anybody who's an addict or is dealing with issues like this, a lot of times family, they get exhausted, they run out of resources, but maybe the internet coming together is able to help him. Here's a quick video from Daniel, again, his former Nickelodeon star, helping him out, going to Riverside, which again, no easy task, it's outside of LA, and finding him and starting to help him out.
A lot of you guys are concerned about Tyler Chase this holiday season, and I just wanted to give you an update. Shaun Weiss and his team put a lot of effort into trying to get him into a hospital last night, and I thought it worked. His dad told me it worked, but it turns out he kind of backed down. So today I went to have pizza with him. It was delicious. Shout out Blaze Pizza. Yeah, the cheese and now that's the way you eat a pizza right there. I also got to let him chat with his old friend Devin Werkheiser, my guy Nettie. So they couldn't get him into a car last night, and that's why they weren't able to get him to the hospital. But he trusted an old friend. Yeah, it's the holiday season, it's raining out, and I just want him to have at least some basic accommodations.
So that's where he stands right now. They were able to get him into a hotel and eventually, try to start to make plans to get him into rehab. And listen, I gotta remind people, you gotta have grace for those in these types of situations. At some point, you just gotta be lucky that the guy's alive, right? A lot of times people get addicted to pain meds. Maybe they're overprescribed, or they're just trying to find a way out from dealing with a lot of hard issues in life, and then they can no longer afford that, and then there's crack and other hard drugs and opioids and accompanied with other mental health issues that might come from being a childhood star. There's so many different ways that a normal person can end up on the streets like this. And we need to do a better job in society, not treating them as crazy, not treating them as lost causes, but know that people, they feel like the system has not worked for them, and they're so far away, seemingly, from re-entering that. But hey, one step at a time, right? So hopefully, and then we'll continue to cover this, because symbolically, even though there's so many thousands of stories of people like this living on the streets, symbolically, it's good to remember to try to have compassion and grace for people that have fallen on hard times. We're all humans, right? All right, let's take a break. When I come back, I'm going to share this insane update about the Kansas City Chiefs moving to Kansas. This story coming next. Ever had that last pair of contacts panic? Now,
shout out to those of us who aren't afraid to still show grace and mercy. especially during the holiday season. Me and my wife talk about this often, how it's easy to do that during the holidays because, you know, people talk about the spirit of Christmas, the spirit of holidays. So you'll just kind of do things. And a lot of the times, if I'm honest with you, if it's not something you practice in your everyday life before the holidays, it's pretty performative, right? A case example today was me and my wife were driving somewhere and I saw this truck driver and he basically was holding down his horn because there was someone in front of him who was in the wrong lane, right? And we always see the traffic temper tantrum, but it was hilarious because he was literally like holding down the horn. So he's like, the dude's not letting off the horn at all. And it's obviously to show the other guy, like, hey, you're in the wrong lane, like, get out of my way. But I just thought to myself, less than 24 hours, he was literally smiling at family and friends, like, saying, like, Merry Christmas, God bless you, and all of this stuff. And then fast forward less than 24 hours, he's holding down his horn, like, get the hell out of my way. I'm not about to let up off this horn until you move. So I just think it's hilarious that, like, that spirit of Christmas is a real thing that we see amongst people, but it's so performative if it's not something that you do every single day of your life, right? It's not like you just get possessed with this spirit for 24 hours through through Christmas and Christmas Eve, and you just do these good things, right? It's either a habitual practice in your life or it's not. And when you start to do it during the holidays, it's pretty performative. It's kind of cringe for me to watch, but I'm so used to seeing people do it now at this point. I don't even judge. I'm like, hey man, do you. All right, guys, let's jump over to the next clip.
Few more weeks to review and release them. The fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein file release was on President Trump's mind over Christmas. He used one of his dozens of holiday posts to wish, quote, Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who loved Epstein. It comes as the Justice Department now says it has uncovered more than 1 million additional documents potentially related to the case and that it may need a few more weeks to review and release them to the public. Under the law signed by President Trump in November, all the DOJ Epstein documents were supposed to be released last Friday. Joining me now is Nick Ackerman. He was an assistant special Watergate prosecutor and a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. All right, so these Epstein files, they go back decades, right? Correct. How can something like this happen where the DOJ on Christmas Eve, mind you, suddenly says, hey, we're now become aware of more than 1 million more files potentially related to Epstein that it's going to take us weeks now to send out to the public?
Total nonsense. They had to know that these files existed right from the get-go. First of all, we know that prior to May of this year, Pam Bondi had lots of FBI agents going through all of these files to determine whether President Trump's name was in these documents. So she knew where the documents were. But on top of that, even more glaring is the fact that all of these documents, they had to know were in the Southern District of New York that prosecuted the Maxwell and Epstein criminal cases.
Why is that?
Because when you're a prosecutor, you are obliged, you're commanded to return over to the defense exculpatory evidence under a Supreme Court decision known as Brady. And in order to do that, you have to get every file that's in the federal government, whether it's in the FAA or some other agency, they have to be under your control so you can comply with your Brady obligations. And certainly Todd Blanche, who was in charge of this whole matter, was a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. He should have known that. So they had to know that these were there. There's no excuse for it.
All right. I do want to ask you about the process of going through these documents to make the redactions, which can be a tedious thing. Is it any surprise with the number of years this case has gone on, with the number of victims in this case, that it didn't meet its deadline, that the DOJ was not able to put everything out?
Well, they should have been able to because they knew who the victims were. It's a matter of just putting a black mark over people who are victims.
I can't tell you guys how many times, like, it's just so funny to watch this. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people refer to the Epstein files as, like, the second closest thing to, like, Watergate. Sometimes I think that's a little bit overzealous, but I just think it's interesting that it's been compared to Watergate so many times, and now we have the prosecutor, the ex-prosecutor of Watergate, talking about the Epstein files. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, this thing has just gotten this big. All because President Trump just did not release them the way he ran on it. He said he would take care of it when he was campaigning. He didn't do what he said. He sent America into a frenzy, and now we have this.
That was it. There's certainly nothing in there for national security. There's no other really valid reason not to turn over all this information. This should have taken no time at all. They should have been able to do it in that month. They knew where the documents were. This is just a lame excuse.
I do want to ask you, you've gotten bipartisan criticism of how this Pam Bondi has handled this, how her office has handled the release of these files. What do you think it is doing as far as the way people feel towards the DOJ, the public trust?
Oh, I think the public trust is completely dissolved. There is no public trust in the DOJ anymore, whether it's appearing in court before judges or whether it's just what they're doing with the public and telling the public what they have or don't have. I think she's got zero credibility at this point.
And when it comes to how these were put out, you had all of this back and forth where a couple of times the DOJ put documents out, then they rescinded them, saying there are some issues here that we need to do some redactions, and they put a hugely redacted where you couldn't see anything, just pages and pages that were darkened. I mean, is this a normal process for putting out information to the public?
Not at all. Even when you do a federal Information Act request, you get things back that are redacted. You saw the Mueller report, that was redacted. But it's just little bits and pieces so that you can't understand something that...
Dude, even she did it. She said hugely redacted. I'm like, just say completely redacted, dude. Like, we can't see anything. Like, what are we talking about here? And even he just said it. He's like, I mean, you usually get things back that are redacted, but not the whole entire page, right? Better yet, right? How about the whole entire document? How is the whole document 119 pages and the whole document's black? That's why I'm like, I'm tired of these news anchors saying, well, this is hugely redacted or this is greatly redacted. I'm like, no, it's completely redacted to where we can't see anything. Just call it what it is.
Might relate to personal information or be really confidential on another investigation. There's none of that here. I mean, this is stuff that goes back to, 2010 and before that they should have had ready to produce at the moment that law passed. I mean, there's no excuse for any of this.
They were given a month, and there are a lot of documents, but they also had some inference that this was coming because it was discussed over and over and over again, and then Congress finally passed the law. The president signed it. Nick Ackerman, thank you for giving us some insight into how this should work and how you see it breaking down. We really do appreciate it.
Former federal prosecutor Elise Adams is joining the chat. So Elise, first let's look at this. I think it was surprising to a number of people that all of a sudden there are another million documents here that they will need to go through. Did that surprise you?
Well, Eric, I think from a process standpoint, this seems to indicate more of a diligence issue than a cover-up. Look, the amount of documents don't surprise me because what's happened here is the searches have expanded. We aren't talking just about narrow searches related to a case against Jeffrey Epstein. We are now talking about searches related to every possible mention of Jeffrey Epstein. So when this law was passed back in November, DOJ was going to have to cast a wider net for all possible relevant documents. So we knew that there was going to be voluminous. The issue is timing because they've had over a month and we're now hearing that there's over 1 million documents. So for me, sloppy, maybe, suspicious, not necessarily.
But let me just follow up on that point, because based on your experience, right, as a former federal prosecutor, given the fact that, yes, the law was passed in November, but DOJ essentially knew this was coming. They knew that there was this push. It had been going on for months, even though it took a while to get there. Is this something that, in your experience, if there was a big issue coming down the pike, that DOJ would have been preparing for and would have been reaching out to the SDNY, for example, to say, we need you to just start getting ready?
I would say it's like having another producer in the room that knows exactly what your song means. This is co-producer. The fact.
Well, Erica, that's an interesting question. I think, look, they did know this was coming down the pike. That's why I said this was a diligence issue, right? Would it have made sense, especially knowing that the legislation was likely to pass, to get everybody at the ready? You know, DOJ is saying they have hundreds of attorneys working on this round the clock. So it would have made sense to do those things earlier. You know, and in my experience, we were extremely diligent. But that being said, the DOJ was not required to do this until the law passed, and now they have to comply. And it seems like their compliance has been hindered by those internal processes. So it's very hard to speculate, and, you know, it's hard to draw a comparison because this is an unprecedented situation. But that being said, to say you now need more weeks to comply with the law where the deadline was December 19th, again, indicates that they have not been as diligent as they should be, and they should be continuing to work around the clock to satisfy their obligations under this law.
And actually, there's been a lot of pushback on that this, in fact, is an unforced error, specifically if we just look at it from the perspective of survivors. I've spoken with a number of survivors, both prior to the release and then in the last week since these documents have come out, as well as their attorneys. Their frustration is that they're hearing from Todd Blanche, this is all about transparency and we want to protect the victims. They were not notified. They have not really, they feel, been considered in all of this. Is this, I mean, I guess I go back to Ashley, is this an unforced error?
Well, first of all, I think you're exactly right, Erica. The survivors are the most important part of this story, and protecting them is absolutely the number one priority. But however, I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have, is that they've been asking for volunteers of former people that are in the prosecutor's office or formerly in the prosecutor's office to work over the holiday to try to speed up these new million documents that were given to them from the Southern District of New York and the FBI. I think that as it was mentioned, that you had to wait until the law was passed. They weren't going to pre-do it. But the bottom line is this just feeds into this conspiracy theory that has been starting. Listen, the Republicans started this, there was a lot there, there's more there, we should do this. And so it's just continuing that story, which, you know, is not good at all, I think, for the survivors.
Not good at all for the survivors. Eugene, is it also in some ways, based on what we're seeing, the delays that we've seen, now the new documents, Eugene, is it also taking away from perhaps what should be the focus, which is maybe there's a frustration with the DOJ and its conduct, but this is about Jeffrey Epstein's conduct and the impact that it had on hundreds and hundreds of women?
But I think there's actually enough time to focus on both of those issues. We're talking about victims here who feel like they've been violated and not respected by their government or their elected officials, that some of them, I imagine, supported with the hope and belief that justice would be served. But the ongoing concerns since before Donald Trump even returned to Washington, that the Justice Department would be more focused on working for him instead of the American people, is just one that is not anywhere near close to being addressed or at least eradicated considering this. Concerns about transparency, concerns about honesty and independence are being questioned, even on the right. Even some of the people who wanted to support Trump and believed that he would handle things in a way that it doesn't seem like he currently is. And so I think both of those issues are issues that we'll continue to see people face and address as we move forward in the new year.
We have some breaking news to share with you. The Department of Justice says it has uncovered, and I'm quoting here.
So the only reason why I'm sharing this, we're not going to watch this clip in this entirety, but I wanted to share it because I was looking at some of this news earlier today. And the fact that the DOJ is saying that they've uncovered 1 million plus more documents regarding the Epstein files, I'm thinking to myself, like, are these people actually releasing everything or are they not? Like, how are we coming up with 1 million more? So I thought this was kind of bogus. This is a pretty short clip. Let's take a look at it.
We have some breaking news to share with you. The Department of Justice says it has uncovered, and I'm quoting here, 1 million more documents potentially related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Caitlin Polans is here. Caitlin, with these documents, do we know if they're above and beyond all of the ones they already have, and if so, what that's going to mean to the release?
Yeah, this is quite a Christmas news drop, Sarah. The Justice Department now revealing that they are still discovering files from Jeffrey Epstein and all of the different parts of the Justice Department that had files related to him in various investigations. In this statement, this was just out about 20 minutes ago, the Justice Department now says the Southern District of New York, so that's their prosecutor's office out of Manhattan, and the FBI have informed the Department of Justice they've uncovered over 1 million more documents potentially related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. The impact there, it means that the Department of Justice is going to be processing these before they can all be posted transparently under the law for weeks. Here's a little bit more of the statement. We have lawyers working around the clock to review and make the legally required redactions to protect victims, and we will release the documents as soon as possible. Due to the mass volume of material, this process may take a few more weeks. This comes on the heels as well of yesterday. Prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida, so in and around Miami, being asked to volunteer their time and jump on board the group that is already looking at these Epstein files. This email from leadership in the department said they needed volunteers. It was an emergency. They understood it was the holidays, but there are more documents than they have enough people to reviewing right now. They need more hands on deck. Sarah?
This is going to fuel all sorts of questions about how the DOJ has handled this, both the left and the right, both going after the DOJ. How does this all fit in with the law that has been put in place that the president signed, the Transparency Act as well? It requires that they had put these out way earlier altogether, and now here we are.
The requirement was that they would all have been released last Friday. That was the day for all of the files to become transparent that was mandated for the Justice Department. They did not meet that deadline. And there's another deadline upcoming, January 3rd. That is the day when the Department of Justice is going to have to tell Congress, here's everything we did to redact in these files and the reasons for those redactions. If they're not even through all of the documents by then, they're digging a hole that already is reaching a lot of people and getting a lot of public and political criticism for it. There are members of Congress calling for contempt for the Attorney General for not meeting the deadline, and others who want to go to court. It is not over. There are more files, and there will also be much more reaction as well. Sarah?
Yeah, and we could have some of the files, not the million they haven't gone through, but some of the files that they have gone through already put out in any moment now. In the next couple of days, we're expecting those as well. I know you will be all over it and working really hard through the holidays, so I thank you, Caitlin Polans, for joining us today with that breaking news.
The U.S. Justice Department says it has just discovered 1 million more documents that could potentially be related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. The department issued a statement saying lawyers are working around the clock to review these documents and make any legally required redactions, a process that it admits may take a few more weeks. Now, the deadline to release all of the materials came and went last Friday. Reaction from the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee was swift. Congressman Robert Garcia released a statement that says, the White House is openly engaged in a cover-up protecting Epstein's co-conspirators and the powerful men who abused women and girls. It's outrageous that the DOJ has illegally withheld over 1 million documents from the public. Now, to talk about all of this with us is our Kevin Lipdak. He's been following the president during this holiday season and joins us from West Palm Beach in Florida. I mean, Kevin, I just have to start with, I can't get my head around this. How can 1 million more documents be found? Where were they? And this is past deadline. Can you explain this to me?
Way past the deadline. One, we were supposed to have everything, I don't know, 2 or 3 times ago. But even if we didn't, how is it 1 million plus more? How is it not 100,000? How is it not 50,000 documents? It's 1 million plus more. At this more, I just feel like, you know what? They just think the American people are stupid. They just think they can tell us whatever at this point, and we're just going to go for it.
Yeah, it is astounding. And what the Justice Department said is that they came from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. And this was the office that had been prosecuting Epstein. It was also prosecuting his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. And so what these documents seem to be from is those sort of proceedings that occurred when Jeffrey Epstein was still alive and when they were prosecuting Maxwell as well. But it's an astounding figure. And remember, we just heard on Sunday from Todd Blanche, who's the number 2 at the Justice Department, that even at that point, they still had 1 million documents to get through. They had, 200 lawyers pouring through them and redacting them. And so the task for the Justice Department, is clearly a monumental one. We got a little glimpse of that as well yesterday when we reported that there was a senior Justice Department official who emailed career prosecutors in Florida, in the Southern District of Florida, asking them to work through the holiday stretch on some of these redactions, sort of acknowledging that this was going to be an all-hands-on-deck effort to try and get these documents redacted and released, well past now the deadline. And so that is what's underway here. But it all kind of, I think, builds to a picture here of a Justice Department really scrambling to get their arms around this. They did have 30 days from when Congress passed this law to the deadline, which occurred on Friday, to get all these documents out. When you talk to officials there, they say that was just not nearly enough time to pour through the material that they had. And it has led to frustration, certainly in Congress. So you hear talk from some of the lawmakers who co-sponsored this bill about potentially bringing Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, up for contempt. It's also led to a degree of frustration at the White House because they want this out. They don't want this drip, drip, drip of documents and having to react to them every couple of days. And so it doesn't make anyone, I think, pleased at how this process has been going. Selma.
I want to talk a little bit more about the White House's position, because you just brought that up. You said they don't want this drip, 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 but at the same time, when the last batch was released, we saw that the White House seemed to be downplaying it, even questioning the authenticity of some of the documents. What is President Trump's position going to be here going forward when you're talking about 1 million more documents, potentially 1 million that were already on the plate? How is he going to position himself on this?
Well, it seems like it depends on who's in the documents, doesn't it? Because on Friday, when the most interesting material related to Bill Clinton, you didn't hear anyone in the White House downplaying it. Instead, they sort of amplified it, sort of tweeting out photos of Bill Clinton in a hot tub. It was exactly the opposite when the most interesting material was about President Trump. And at that point, you saw the Justice Department do something quite extraordinary, which was to use their own social media accounts to kind of go to bat for him. And even in one case, which was the case of that sort of disgusting letter that was supposedly written from Jeffrey Epstein from prison, out and out say that it was false. And so the strategy seems to depend on who is actually in some of these documents. There is, I think, a degree of frustration at the White House that this is all sort of obscuring what the president is doing. There are some corners of the White House who think that the Justice Department has whiffed all of this, to use the word that Susie Wiles used, the chief of staff, to describe how this has been playing out for the last several months. But I think when you talk to officials, they are very acutely aware that this is something they're going to have to keep dealing with for at least the foreseeable future.
I mean, just a mind-boggling story. 1 million more documents potentially related to Jeffrey Epstein now found. A DOJ that is scrambling, a White House that is scrambling. Thank you so much, Kevin, for walking us through all of that. Thank you.
Way to jump the gun. Erica Kirk raised a few eyebrows.
Going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 in the most resounding way possible.
Way to jump the gun. Erica Kirk raised a few eyebrows during her speech at AmFest over the weekend by publicly endorsing J.D. Vance for president in 2028, despite the fact he has not yet announced plans to run. Zhang, your 2 cents before we get into the rest.
Yeah, we're going to show you a poll in a second of how the different contenders are doing. What's hilarious is that the polls don't include anyone who can actually win, in my opinion. So, and the second part is Erica Kirk endorsing J.D. Vance this early is curious. And others have also noted how curious it is. So we'll come back and talk about both those things.
Let me introduce you to my creative assistant, Claude. Claude is an AI collaborator that
Word of the day, curious. Let's get to that poll Cenk talked about. According to the latest Real Clear Politics polling average, J.D. Vance leads as the top contender for the Republican nominee with 48.8%. Don Jr., 11%. Marco Rubio, 9%, 9.3%. DeSantis, 9%. Nikki Haley, where's she been?
What? Donald Trump Jr. Is he running for president? Is this these okay? These better just be projections, right? Like I think it's safe to say we all think JD's gonna run, but Donald Trump Jr. is he literally like supposed to be running? This is not something I'm very familiar with, and I wouldn't think I would have been missing this because I cover news every day. So I'm like, where did this come from? Is this like new? Are they just putting him out there on the polling because his dad's president? Like, where's that coming from? Because 11%, huh? Like, even double digits. I'm kind of shocked by that.
Percent. Don Jr., 11%. Marco Rubio, 9%, 9.3%. DeSantis, 9%. Nikki Haley.
I mean, are you guys shocked that he's higher than Marco Rubio? I'm a little shocked by that. I'm just a little bit because we don't really see Don Jr. doing much. So I'm just, if he was at 9% and Marco was at 11%, that might make more sense to me. But how do you guys feel about that? That's crazy. That's crazy work. He's in double digits.
Hey, where's she been? Word of the day, curious. Let's get to that poll Cenk talked about. According to the latest Real Clear Politics polling average, J.D. Vance leads as the top contender for the Republican nominee with 48.8%. Don Jr., 11%. Marco Rubio, 9%, 9.3%. DeSantis, 9%. Nikki Haley, where's she been? 4.5%. And Kennedy, 4.3%. We'll see. While Trump has been very non-committal on the topic, Erica Kirk has been pushing for it over the past few months. She says it's what her late husband wanted.
That was the thing that my husband was very direct about. It was, interesting enough, one of the last few conversations we had was how intentional he was about supporting JD for 28.
Yeah, he was totally behind JD. And he was largely responsible for Trump picking JD.
Mm-hmm. Marco Rubio also backed the idea, telling Vanity Fair this: if J.D. Vance runs for president, he's going to be our nominee, and I'll be one of the first people to support him. But is this really what Republicans want? Let's go back to that polling, shall we? A survey by Atlas Intel shows that while the largest proportion of Republicans, 46.7%, would pick Vance in a hypothetical contest between him, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and other figures, this is less than the 54.6% of support he accrued in Atlas Intel's September polling. A few top Republicans have already refused to endorse him, including Rand Paul. What?
I know it's early. What do you make of this? Is J.D. Vance the heir apparent here?
I think there needs to be representatives in the Republican Party who still believe international trade is good, who still believe in free market capitalism, who still believe in low taxes. See, it used to separate conservatives and liberals. The conservatives thought it was a spending problem. We didn't want more revenue. We wanted less spending. But now all these pro-tariff protectionists, they love taxes. And so they tax, and then they brag about all the revenue coming in. That has never been a conservative position. So I'm going to continue to try to lead a conservative free market wing of the party, and we'll see where things lead over time.
And that's not J.D. Vance.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so Rand Paul saying don't crown him just yet. Surprising.
I mean, that's not shocking. I know they're playing that. I'm not going to say they're playing it to be divisive. Everybody's not going to like JD. Everyone's not going to go with him. Just because Trump's the president right now, despite how the economy feels, everyone just is not going to be a fan of him, if I'm honest with you. I mean, Trump has 3 more years left, so that gives us a 43-year-old president. Some people who are older, they're like, no, he's too young to be president. Some people who are younger, they're like, yes, finally a younger president. Some people love his policies based on how he follows President Trump. Some people think he's wet behind the ears. So I think it just is going to take some time so we can see how it plays out. But yeah, like, it's not shocking. Everyone's not going to go with JD just because the president is, just because President Trump is in office right now, and that's his vice president. Actually, historically speaking, the vice president behind the president doesn't always do well, and that's historically. We've only had, I think it's like 2 or 3 vice presidents right after the president that have came in, and it was like a successful transition, but a lot of the times the VP just doesn't get it. So let's just see what happens in JD's case. It might, right, if we think about what happened with the last administration, but we still got to see.
Taxes. They love taxes, and so they tax, and then they brag about all the revenue coming in. That has never been a conservative position. So I'm going to continue to try to lead a conservative free market wing of the party, and we'll see where things lead over time.
And that's not J.D. Vance.
No.
Okay.
If you don't understand the rules of power, you will certainly lose to someone who does.
As Rand Paul saying, don't crown him just yet. Surprisingly, Lindsey Graham is also in that camp. Lindsey sidestepped the question entirely when asked on NBC if he would join the slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, in endorsing Vance. I'm worried about tomorrow, but that's a big day for JD. He somewhat cryptically told the network, quickly pivoting to praise President Donald Trump, escalation of tensions with Venezuela. But after Vance's speech at AmFest, I wouldn't be surprised if more people hopped on the bandwagon. Cenk, it's so early, as you said. You teased that there's no way anybody on that polling list could win. So what does happen? What shakes out here? And why was Rubio so quick to say, oh, I don't want this, when we believe, or at least I do, that he entered this administration because he saw it as a next step?
So the establishment jury seems to be in. It looks like they're going J.D. Vance, Rubio as a ticket. Trump even talked about it. And he said, oh, Vance is great and Rubio's really good. And my God, if they partnered up, that would be formidable. That's why Rubio's going, oh, no, I'm good with it. He'd love a VP slot. And so the fact that the establishment is supporting Vance so thoroughly, all the way through to Erica Kirk, I think is an interesting sign. I wouldn't be on the side of the establishment if I'm on either party. And so the fact that the donor class seems to be thrilled with J.D. Vance is a huge warning sign, if you ask me, to America First, MAGA, etc., that he might not be the right guy. And I think that in the beginning they were non-committal. In fact, when Trump was first asked about it, he's like, I don't know. And that's the correct answer, by the way. Nobody knows now. And why do we have to decide now? It's like years from now. So part of the reason that the mainstream media asks about it is because they love the horse race stuff, right? They don't want to comment on policy because then they'll be called biased. But horse race is safe, so they like that kind of stuff. But the second reason is, when you ask early on, like in 2016, it's a trick. So who's going to win the Democratic primary? They would ask in the year 2015, the year before. And everybody on TV would go, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. It has to be Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. It's a way of doing propaganda and marketing, right? So then somebody, a lone voice, if ever, almost never, right? But I would scream from the internet. And very rarely I'd make it onto TV and say, Bernie Sanders. And then the whole table would laugh. Bernie Sanders! So that's what they're doing in this case. And the fact that they're doing it in favor of J.D. Vance speaks volumes. So now J.D. was a little naughty, though, at TV USA, at the AmFest thing, where he didn't agree with Ben Shapiro about canceling every single person that doesn't agree with Israel. So then Isaac Shore, another Israel First guy at Mediaite, who loves to call everybody Jew haters, jumps out and goes, oh, you have to condemn the Jew haters. And J.D. Vance was not supine enough. He did not grovel at Israel's feet enough. He's been a naughty boy. So that.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys get a chance, I would say go over and watch TPUSA conference. Like I said, I caught that last year, but like the very last day. So the days that I caught it, you can still kind of see Charlie inside like a lot of the videos that I caught, because that was like 2024's Turning Point conference. But if you guys go back this year and you take a look at it, you'll just see Ben Shapiro kind of going off on everybody. I'm going to tell you, I just saw this. He went off on everybody. I thought it was extremely weird as heck. that they allow Ben Shapiro to go off on everybody, and then Tucker Carlson kind of comes and goes off on Ben Shapiro or whatever order they had it in, because I watched them separately. And I just thought to myself, I just don't know. I just remember watching this conference and thinking to myself, what I've seen in the prior years, I was like, I don't know if this conference would have played out like this if Charlie was still alive. But nonetheless, this is what we have.
That's a warning to J.D. Vance. Okay, not that Isaac's that powerful, he's just a random pipsqueak, but like he's just a symbolic of the Israel First crowd. And every once in a while, when someone in public doesn't 200% support Israel, they'll start to write dirty articles about, oh, it's a questionable moral character, Jew hater, etc., etc. And that's how they smear people. So that's a little warning shot to JD. Hey, you better get back in line, okay? And JD's apparently sophisticated enough, savvy enough to know I should pretend to be America first at a minimum before I get into office. And then, of course, I'll be Israel first. And Palantir first, and Peter Thiel first, and Silicon Valley first, etc. So Rand Paul, of course, is not going to agree to this because Rand Paul's probably going to run against them. So keep it real on that. And he's right. There is huge differences on things like war and taxes and tariffs, etc. And then finally, none of these people on the list, it's not that they don't have a chance. J.D. Vance certainly has a chance. I don't think Rubio does. I don't think Trump Jr. does. DeSantis, Haley, Kennedy Jr. No, those guys don't have a chance. I think the leading candidate.
I don't think DeSantis does. Okay, so if he's talking about for strict presidency, I get why he would say no to all those guys. Not Rubio, not DeSantis, not Don Jr. I would probably say no to those guys too. Where I could see Rubio kind of having a spot is if maybe JD runs and JD picks him as VP. That's where I can kind of see Rubio running. But other than that, I guess if you go straight president, because Marco Rubio has won, I guess at this point I don't see him still taking the presidency. I think he would do a little bit better if he ran again than he did last time, because now he's a part of President Trump's cabinet. But I don't know if I can see him taking it like the actual presidency. Yeah, maybe the VP. But if JD's in there, then I would probably say, yeah, I agree with him. I don't see Don Jr., Rubio, or DeSantis taking it if JD's still in there.
It is Tucker Carlson, but they won't put him in a poll because he's been canceled. The idea that someone on TV or radio would run or online. Oh, no way. No, we only pick reality hosts like Donald Trump and actors like Ronald Reagan. Okay, so I think Tucker's most likely to win. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey, I don't know that they'll run, but they could be interesting. They could be interesting characters in this. I think Tucker beats all these guys easily. I think that he'll. But I don't know. Like, there's a lot of games behind the scenes that I don't know, Sharon. Right? So far, Tucker seems to be on Vance's side. I'm not sure I believe it, and I don't know what to make of it. But sometimes people are on somebody's side until they're not. Right? So we'll see how it goes. But if you haven't, this I do know. If there is a clear Israel First candidate and a clear America First candidate in a Republican primary in 2028, the America First candidate will win by a landslide. So that's why Israel First has to work around the clock now to try to prevent any America First candidate from running, because they'll trump the whole thing and be able to win.
I mean, I know we're not supposed to do this, but if Tucker were to win the nomination, who does he partner up with? Candace, his friend? Somebody else?
No.
I mean, then he'd get more establishment.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated.
In the pitch black of night, when others can't even see their...
I actually did realize that the AI companies had money and lobbyists and were willing to spend. AI is real. This job displacement phenomenon is going to affect people of every geography, every political alignment.
All right, well, as we close out the year, 2025 is done. It is very natural to take a look back, and our American Congress has had a record-setting year. It just hasn't set any good records. Here's what they've done. With fewer than 40 bills signed into law as of Monday, the House and Senate set a modern record for lowest legislative output in the first year of a new presidency, according to data maintained by C-SPAN and Purdue University.
So I have one more clip to play after this. I forgot if it's on the politician's actual YouTube channel or not. But yeah, this is kind of like the going theme that this cabinet is setting the record for the least bit ever done. And I'm thinking to myself, like, are we really shocked by this? I mean, I hate that it's turning out this way, but it is what it is, guys, right? This is what we're seeing. It's turning out this way.
Despite that lack of productivity, the Senate held more roll call votes, 659 of them, than any odd number year this century, and with almost 60% of them focused on advancing President Donald Trump's nominations to the executive and judicial branches. So other records that Congress has set in 2025 include these. The House, meanwhile, set a 21st century record for fewest votes cast, only 362. In the first session of a 2-year Congress, it held barely half as many votes as in 2017, which was Trump's first year in office and when the Republicans held the majority. And perhaps not surprisingly, an unusually large number of House members, 24 Republicans and 19 Democrats, have decided to leave the chamber either to retire or run for other office. That places the chamber on pace to set a 21st century record for retirements in one Congress, according to C-SPAN and Purdue.
And we know that that's not hearsay because we have seen the amount of people that are saying like, hey, I'm retiring, leaving, not running again, not going to be around. Nancy Pelosi, MTG, like it's been a couple of people, a couple of older gentlemen in Congress. So yeah, they're saying that this is record-setting things that are happening. Now, we know that it depends on what social media or what news media platform is promoting this because some of them are extremely biased. But nonetheless, I've seen this across both sides of platforms.
So the reasons for this seem to be the obvious ones. It's that Trump has decided to rule primarily by executive order this term. Congress has kind of just passed the big beautiful bill and then they're like, okay, we did it, we're done. And of course, you have Speaker Johnson, who has been running interference this entire time for Trump as his right-hand man in Congress. He has constantly shut down the House to block votes. And in fact, he actually set a record himself doing so because we experienced a 43-day government shutdown this year. Congratulations to us. So they're not only not doing a whole lot for Americans, but honestly, that seems to be kind of relative because they are doing a lot for American corporations, and Trump's big, beautiful budget bill was a big part of that. For instance, the artificial intelligence industry is planning to buy off their share of politicians, and they've announced that they want to do this, and so it's not a secret. This entire year, they've been pushing for a federal moratorium on AI that would wipe out state-level regulations, and this month, President Donald Trump signed an executive order that does exactly that. Meanwhile, the AI companies are setting their sights on Congress, and here's this according to the Washington Post. The largest of the pro-AI super PACs leading the future has a war chest of more than $100 million from prominent investors and executives. The day after Leading the Future was announced in August, Meta revealed its own super PAC. The company announced a second super PAC in September. Meta has donated tens of millions to each group. So Leading the Future has connections to the Trump administration, and it's funded by a venture capital firm by Andreessen Horowitz. Mark Andreessen, the firm's co-founder, is, of course, the Trump advisor. You've heard his name before. Joe Lonsdale, a co-founder of Palantir. When people tell you who they are, believe them. They name their company Palantir, which is insidious. Anyway, so Joe Lonsdale, he and his friend, he's a friend of Vice President J.D. Vance, and they're also funding the PAC. And then you have Mark Zuckerberg. He has been very tight with this administration ever since Trump got reelected. And now the AI industry is launching an all-out siege warfare on our government. But it's not exactly an original strategy. So the strategy aims to replicate the success of the cryptocurrency industry, which used a super PAC to clear a path for Congress this summer to boost the sector's fortunes with the passage of the Genius Act. So we're going to find out if that worked. Cenk, there's a lot going on here as far as, the cryptocurrency industry, but also the AI industry, and they're really just forcing this on the American people, and our government is complicit in doing this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this proves exactly what we've been telling you on the Young Turks. And so I said, look, Trump's going to promise X, Y, and Z. When he gets into office, there's only basically two things he's going to do. One is tax cuts for the rich. Boom, nailed it. over $4 trillion in tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. The easiest prediction in the world. I should get no credit for it. You should all know it by now. By the way, the next time a Republican wins, it doesn't matter if they call themselves a populist or establishment. It doesn't matter. They're going to pass another $4 trillion tax cut for the rich. It is literally what they do every single time. So number two is deregulation. And so not only have they broken a record for no real bills passed, right? And for executive orders, so they're just shifting all the power to the executive branch so Trump can more easily give away money to donors.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like a record broken for bills not passed is absolutely crazy work. That's crazy.
And not do any real legislation, not any real democracy. But on top of that, they've broken a record for the most amount of deregulatory actions. As an example, in 2009, Barack Obama as president withdrew no regulations that George W. Bush had put in. This year, Trump repealed 22 pieces of legislation that involved regulating his donors, corporations. And what are the regulations about? Oh, boo, regulations are always bad. No, regulations are often about worker safety, community safety. They can't dump poison into your local lake, etc. No, all the brakes are out of the car. This is complete corporate rule. The Democrats do it more subtly. The Republicans are totally over the top on it. And they gave you exactly what we told you they were going to give you. Nothing for the average guy. Nothing. But instead, what you got was massive deregulation so corporations can continue to rob us blind and put us in danger, and giant tax cuts for the wealthy and for the corporate world. And finally, by the way, don't forget, Yaz brings up AI, and it's a good point. They're the new donor class, so they're now bribing all the politicians legally, according to the Supreme Court. And so what do they want? They want their data centers backed up, and they want you to pay the electricity bill, by the way, for their data centers. They want subsidies. They want the government to back them up. The crypto guys bought almost all the Republicans. And by the way, an important number of the corporate Democrats, they spent a ton of money on Democratic primaries buying corporate Democrats and Democratic leadership, and all of them together have deregulated crypto, deregulated AI, given them subsidies, given them breaks. This is not capitalism, guys. This is corporatism. This is corporate rule.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile's saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell? Why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50,
is just kind of the way
of us. So this is what, and rigs all of the rules to their benefit and against their competitors, against their consumers, which is all of us. So this is what the great American robbery looks like. This is what they do. Nothing for you, everything for their corporate donors.
Yeah, and this is just kind of the way that things are going in this country right now, and it doesn't feel like a democracy anymore because these AI companies and these tech companies are able to pay off the government, get their guy in power. We have J.D. Vance, who is the protege of Peter Thiel, as our vice president right now. He is in the White House. He is at the top of the executive branch. He's on that ticket. And, whatever they want to do, they told us, though, what they were going to do, right? We saw all these tech CEOs sitting in the front row in front of our actually elected Congress people at Trump's inauguration. So it was very clear what the priorities of this administration were from the get-go. And, yeah, the people... I guess it's our fault for electing Trump in the first place, but this is not really what anybody wants. Nobody wants these giant AI data centers using up all the water in their local areas and then driving all of their electric bills up through the roof that they have to pay, as you mentioned. And I really don't feel like people are paying enough attention to that. And then also like the noise, and then just like they have to clear out land for it. It's all a bad idea. And the thing is, the public is not on board with this. This is not a thing that the American people want, but it is being forced on us, and they're saying, use it, use our stuff. Everything that we interact with now, it's like, oh, do you want to use the AI? It's like, no, nobody asked for that. I wasn't like trying to do anything with AI now. But this is the reality, and hopefully, Andrew Yang has been very outspoken about the AI industry and just like about tech in general, and he has some personal experience there. But, he was saying, this is what I was talking about all those years ago when I first started running for president, and I became more known through doing that. But, this was a problem that was foreseen and nothing was done about it.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
By studying geometry, we can think about our first principles.
I pointed out that the GOP-led Congress passed less than 40 bills this year. This is a modern low, historic low in Congress. Are you surprised to hear those numbers? And did I get anything wrong here?
I actually think it's probably smaller, but as you know, I'm from Tennessee, as you are, Todd, and we don't like more laws. I think we've got too many on the books as it is. We passed the big, beautiful bill, and it strengthened our border. It made us more energy independent, and therefore it has increased our economic strength in the world. As you've seen, the prices of fuel are dropping. I've never seen the liberal media more biased when they say we need more laws. I don't think we need more restrictions. I think we need less. But therein, we do need to follow up with a lot of President Trump's executive orders. Those are the kind of things that I think we'll be doing in the new year. As I had a closed-door meeting with the speaker before I left to come back to God's country here in Tennessee, and he and I both talked about the importance of finishing strong, and I believe he sees that as well. And you got to realize, too, everybody in Washington, D.C. sees themselves as the speaker. So I think sometimes you got to watch sometimes from within some folks that could be sniping at you. So I'm pleased with what we're done. I think we need to do more, but I think we're on the right track. And I think, as I've always said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Well, the bigger dumpster fire is on the other side of the aisle. Congressman, new polling finds congressional Democrats' approval rating at the lowest level since 2009. Just 18% approve of the job congressional Democrats are doing. That is certainly good news as we're moving into the midterms. What is it that the Republicans need to do to win at the ballot box?
I think we need to address President Trump's America First agenda. Congress has won with, we have 3 or 4 people in the majority. We're one flu season away from losing the majority. Reagan said it best, we could lose everything in one generation. Todd, we could lose everything in one vote series. I mean, these people are serious Marxists. When you have my friend AOC and all these others are the main spokespeople and are the agenda drivers in the Democrat Party now. Hakeem Jeffries, just basically all he does is attack Republicans when they point out illegal things going on in Washington, D.C. And that's where the Democrat Party is today. They don't know where they're going. They are a rudderless ship. And probably the best.
I mean, he kind of said it like Hakeem Jeffries shouldn't point that out. He should point out illegal things Republicans are doing in D.C. But what he should not do is never answer a question. And that's what Hakeem Jeffries drives me crazy. Now, you guys might have your own opinion about him. But here's my thing. Dancing, the king of dancing, he never does a straight yes or no. So you guys tell me if you've seen that. I have not seen that from Hakeem Jeffries. I promise you, if there's anything that drives me crazy about him, it's the fact that he never just says yes or no. He just dances.
The Democrat Party has is the Republican messaging, because we're pretty poor at that and explaining what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
All right, well, Congressman, we're going to have to leave it there. We'll send a case of Tamiflu to Capitol Hill. Got to keep everybody healthy. Congressman, thank you.
Man, do I believe that this video is going to help a lot of people. Not only people that were hurt in church, but those that have always known that there's just something wrong, something not right about the American church.
All right, guys, welcome to the last clip of the live stream. Those of you guys that hang out on here often, you know I either start or end the live stream with a Christian clip. So if you don't want to watch it, bye. Log off. I'll see you guys tomorrow because you know I come on every day except Sunday. But for those of you that do want to see the Word of God, here we are. We're going to end the live stream tonight with a Christian clip. So let's go.
Because Philip Anthony were hurt in church, but those, man, do I believe that this video is going to help a lot of people. Not only people that were hurt in church, but those that have always known that there's just something wrong, something not right about the American church. Because Philip Anthony Mitchell is going to speak out of the prophet Jeremiah from the Old Testament and also words of Jesus about people, pastors, prophets, who speak visions of their own mind, but they didn't hear it from God at all. They heard it from themselves, and they speak it to bolster their image. People that promise blessings if you give their ministry and give money to them, but without actually following God at all. People that use the authority of God to keep regular people down so they never actually attain the life-fulfilling call that God has for them. It's time to wake up. It's time to hear the word of truth. And it's time to take this word in and put it into practice because God has a calling for you. He has a calling for all of us, and it's time to see what that is. If you like this video, hit that like button. Help me get this out there to more people. Let's check this out.
Hear me. Do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesied to you, filling you with vain hopes, always talking about blessings, always talking about rosiness and clouds and candy, filling you with vain hopes. They speak visions of their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord. They say continually to those who despise the word of the Lord. How do you speak blessings to people that dishonor God? This is American preaching.
Yeah.
You preach blessings to people that don't respect Christ, like he's a genie in a bottle.
You ever experienced that? I gotta ask you. You know, people that don't want anything to do with God, but when they need something, they pray for it. They need a car, they pray for it. They want a marriage, they pray for it. They want a job, they pray for it. But there's literally no reflection of his love, his goodness, his peace, his joy upon their life. There's no submission to his authority. We got to get past that. That's like you said, that's like a genie in the bottle. That's not our Jesus.
No, it's not our Jesus, and we see it so much, and we're blinded by it. At this point, not being like a baby Christian, let's just say Christian on milk, for lack of better terms, right? It's easier for me to spot than it was years ago. Years ago, I would be so blinded by it. But it's like, I see it all the time, especially with content creators. Like, they'll be living their lives a certain way. They'll be talking a certain way. They'll have a certain demeanor about themselves, a way that they carry themselves. And then all of a sudden, when something goes bad, they'll be like, well, God got me, or like, God blessed me, or like, God takes care of people that do this and that. And I'll think to myself, fool, I've been watching you like 2 years and I ain't never heard you say nothing about Jesus until now. But that's the type of stuff that we have to be discerning about, right? Like, because people are always going to call on God when something goes wrong. That's the easiest time to call on God. When people are doing great at work, when no one has cancer, their kids aren't in danger, right? Like, when life is just normal, right? No one calls on God. That's the thing. Like, this is where I will agree with the atheists, where they're like, sometimes Christians just need something to believe in. They're not 100% right, but they are right in the sense where it's like, yeah, if nothing's wrong in anyone's life, sometimes even for the believer, that they do not call on Jesus. They do not say the name of Christ. They don't have a close relationship with Christ. And then all of a sudden something goes wrong, or their life is trying, or they're going through trials, and all of a sudden you're hearing all of this God come out of their mouth, and you're thinking to yourself like, man, I've been paying attention to this person for years, and I've never really seen them conduct themselves like this until this person had cancer or this person was dying. So that's one way to discern if God in someone's life is tangible or not, right? If you're hearing this every day, if a person's not ashamed of their faith, if a person's willing to share their faith, if they're talking about things that are lovely because their mind is focusing on things that are lovely, if you know, Paul talked about this in scripture, then you'll just see this on a person's everyday life, right? They don't really have to say it. And for sure, you won't only see it when times of trouble hit their life. You'll see it pretty much on a day-to-day basis.
They say continually to those who despise the Lord, it shall be well with you. Lies. And to everyone subordinately who follows their own heart, they say no disaster shall come upon you. You know what that is? Preaching with no warnings. Man, come on, man.
In the latter days, you will understand this clearly. A day is coming when your eyes will be opened. I, the Lord said, did not send the prophets.
Open our eyes.
Yet they ran. I didn't appoint you, yet you started a church. I didn't send you, yet you put yourself in an office. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have proclaimed my words to my people. If they had a prayer life, you would hear preaching of the scriptures and not preaching of opinions.
If you can't quit the P word, I want to let you know that scripture tells us.
Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing. They have Christian lingo. They have Christian antics. They have Christian programs. They write Christian books. They do Christian podcasts. They do Christian conferences. For lack of discernment, we thumb them, like them, support them, listen to them, are led astray by them.
Man.
Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves.
And it is sad that this is truth. It just is. We don't want to believe this. We don't want to believe that people are doing things out of their self-interest, but politicians do it all the time. Why wouldn't we expect it to be in the church? It's right here, and it's been warned about since the very beginning. This is why I'm making this video. Not to push anybody down, but man, I just want us to get back to the Word and get back to the Lord, get back to Jesus. Stop lifting up men and following men so much, because, even Jesus, when they wanted to make him king, he didn't entrust himself to men. He said because he knows what is in them. I love our pastors. I love my own pastor, but I don't follow him. I follow Jesus, and you should too.
You will recognize them by their
Amen.
All throughout the scripture is filled with these kind of warnings from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Why? Because the prophets and the apostles and your Lord knew that this would be the most dangerous threat to the church. When John is writing in the New Testament, he's not warning the people about the devil only. He's telling them, I know when we leave ravenous wolves.
Yeah.
They're going to come in behind us and they're going to wreak havoc among the flock. That one of the most dangerous things you face, hear me, you swipe up and see it, you watch it on YouTube, they're sitting in your churches, listen, are false prophets, false teachers with false messages who have false authority, who are ravaging the church. You listen to them, you thumb them, you like them, you support them, you read their books and go to their conference, they rotten out your soul.
Truth.
This is what we deal with as we approach, man, this powerful text of scripture. Hear me. It is this text that we're about to unpack, which is the beginning, hear me, of the last public message Jesus ever preached. If his first recorded sermon was the Sermon on the Mount, this is his last recorded sermon. And of all the things the Lord could have said to us before he was executed publicly, he took this moment in history to warn his children and all future followers to protect themselves from men like this. He did not use his last public sermon to talk about love. He did not use his last public sermon to talk about grace. Man. He did not use his last public sermon to pronounce blessings. No, this whole chapter 23, his last public sermon, is full of warnings and woes and damnations.
And I hope when you're watching this, you're not like, oh man, it sounds scary. I like the love. I love the grace. I love the blessings. The Bible is filled with that, filled with promises of God. He wants to pour his love upon your life. But we need to be on guard. We need to protect our heart. We need to protect our mind. We need to handle the word of God rightly. Because he's right. 2 Peter says, but false prophets also arose among the people. So it came from within, people that were among us, but they weren't of us. It says, and many will follow their sensuality, and because of the way of them, the way of the truth will be blasphemed, and in their greed they will exploit with false words.
Now, it's important to know here that Jeremiah and Pastor Philip Anthony, they are talking about people in general that may come online and present themselves as teachers. And we see them all of the time, right? They're like YouTube pastors, or they have like a YouTube church. He's definitely telling you to look out for people like that, but he's also telling you to look out for people who you're under their authority. So whenever you go to church on Sunday, your pastor, your preach, you know, your preacher, your deacon, whoever is someone who is mentoring you, he's also saying be discerning about those people and what they are saying to you and what they are saying to the congregation, and if this is something that actually is congruent with the word of God, right? Always compare it to scripture. Don't just go off of what man says alone. This is why it's so important for us to read the scriptures for ourselves. This is why when I meet people that say, like, I believe in God, but I don't read the Bible, I already know that their relationship with the Lord is going to be challenging. If there is not daily reading matters, but if there's no reading at all, I know that their relationship with God is challenging.
They will use God's word to exploit people in their poverty, in their suffering. They're going to take advantage of people. This is what's in men. This is what's the darkness in our hearts. They will even use that which is good to bring it into evil and use it for their own gain. But the Bible says their condemnation from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. So, God knows what's going on. He's going to repay every evil. But I just don't want any of us to fall into that. I want all of us to be used of God and actually walk into the blessings, but that comes through obedience and it comes from surrender. And it's not overbearing, it's actually true freedom.
Watch. The Lord, who called himself the Good Shepherd. Man, this is powerful. Used his last public sermon to try to protect those who have ears to hear. To guard your heart from false teachers, false messages, men who have false authority. Just a reminder to you that some of the battles in your mind, battles in your heart, battles in your life, follow the pattern of the Lord. You can defeat the devil with the word of God. You can back him down in your mind with the word of God. You can come against him in your house with the word of God. You give him the fire of the word of God. He comes for your marriage, give him back the word of God. He comes for your heart, give him back the word of God. He lies to you about your past, give him back the word of God. This is so powerful.
Amen.
Chapter 23, verse 1. He exposes the false righteousness of false teachers who have false authority. Then Jesus said to the crowds and his disciples, i.e., he pivots away from the Pharisees towards his followers, towards the crowd of thousands of people, to preach to people who have watched maybe one last opportunity to repent and protect themselves from the Pharisees. He says about them, watch, publicly, his last public sermon, he speaks with a loud voice. The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the works that they do. For they preach, but do not practice. We see the same thing happening today. When you see people who call themselves apostles, and God did not anoint them to be that.
Amen.
They call themselves prophets. God did not call them to be that. They call themselves pastors. God did not call them to be that. They start churches. God did not call them to start that. That's just because you have a gift. That doesn't mean you need to start a church. And what these men did, they sat, the Greek says, they sat themselves on Moses' seat. That is watch. They took authority that God did not give them.
Right.
Nowhere in the scriptures do you ever see God giving the Pharisees authority over his people.
Truth.
But what we do see is a hypocritical, corrupt, darkened group of men, watch, who hijack authority for themselves. Watch. And then they use that authority to exert, watch this, dominance.
I just see so much of that today. I really do. Like, this is why I'm so passionate about speaking with regular people like you, with getting out there and talking to what I call the faithful no-names, people that are sitting in the pews, or people that are on the outside, not letting God use them because they think that they can't, because they have someone that sits over them in this authority, and they speak well, and they act well, and they, got all these things, and they seem like they know all this stuff. And so it makes the regular person feel like, well, I can't ever attain that. Well, that's not it. We shouldn't feel that way. The Lord called us to be one. We're supposed to be humble servants to one another. And how many people have we seen, these pastors on television, or pastors that have mega churches, that have done this on the outside? They look like sheep on the outside, but inside, not so much. And then their past catches up with them. Their sin catches up with them. And then they fall. And then a lot of people are hurt by this because they used to follow this person instead of following Jesus. Point to Jesus. Pray to him. Ask him to use your life over and over. Let him fill you with his power and his presence. Man, that's my dream. More of us, though, wake up and to live the life he called us for.
Over God's people. Watch. This is important for you to remember, because not just because you hear truth from someone's mouth, that don't mean God has affirmed that person. Because a prophet, a false prophet, is not just going to give you lies only. They will mix in lies with truth.
Yep.
So you said, well, man, they quoted that scripture right. That doesn't mean God affirmed them, though. God did not affirm the Pharisees, but yet Jesus says, so long as they teach you from Moses' law, obey that and no further. But watch, but don't do what they do. Right. Don't follow after their behavior. Hear me, American Christians. Don't be people that post and don't live that.
Come on.
Don't be people that preach, come down, and don't live that. Yes. I can tell you from being up here, it's easy to preach and not live what you preach when you come down. It's very easy. That's why, man, the best thing that some false preachers can do is stay on the platform, because as soon as they come off, they have no virtue.
Come on.
Or the best thing they can do is stay off the platform, because as soon as they come up here, this is the only virtue they have. Man, they can move a room and move a crowd and move an arena, come off of the stage and don't do anything they just preached. This is the Lord warning you and I. Don't preach and not practice. Don't be like these men. We do this, man. You got all these scriptures in your profile, but you don't live them. And this is the Lord saying to his people, don't act like these Pharisees. Don't be people that have confession without a life to match. And we see people do that all over this country.
Look, I want to say it again. He's not saying you got to be perfect. But the Lord does say, be holy for I am holy. I mean, we are seeking to attain this process of upward growth in Christ, that, these habits that we have, or these reactions that we have in certain struggles and trials, the Lord wants to put on love upon your life. He wants to set you free from your bondage. He doesn't want you to stay addicted to your problems. He doesn't want to stay addicted to your substances, or, he just wants to change you. You can be transformed by the renewing of your mind, the Bible says, and you will begin to worship him in your life as a spiritual act of worship. This is the calling. This is your life. This is what he made you for. Don't ruin your witness by being a hypocrite like these Pharisees.
Who God did not call, did not appoint, did not raise up, and they take their own authority, give themselves their own names. They start ministries outside of God's will, and you flood those ministries. And what the Lord said, that these men see God's people suffering, and will do nothing to ease their suffering. Watch. This is like shepherds in our country who see the plight of God's people. They do not shed a tear in prayer for God's people. Don't care about the socioeconomic status of God's people. Don't care about the spiritual well-being of God's people. They only care about feeding themselves. I don't know about you. Let me talk for me. If I'm a sheep, I want to be under a shepherd that sheds some tears for me.
Yes.
I want to be under a shepherd that prays for me. I want to be under a shepherd that cares about me. I want to be under a shepherd that reads the word to me. I want to be under a shepherd that will fight a devil for me. I don't want to be under a shepherd that hears me suffering, see me going through, and all they care about is getting out of sermon, going home, and going to sleep. You won't catch them on their knees during the week. Won't catch them shedding a tear during the year. They do not care about the well-being of God's people. Man, there's American shepherds like that all across this landscape. The only thing they care about is their next sermon, their next honorarium, and where they're going to eat on Sunday. They do not shed tears for the people they preach to. Don't care about them. Don't pray for them. Don't fight for them. Don't stand in the gap for them. This is false ministry.
He said it all. False ministry. So if you've been hurt in a false ministry because of a false pastor or a shepherd or a prophet, don't walk away from the church. Return to the shepherd. For the safest place that you could put your life is at the feet of Jesus to hear his words. Man, he loves you so much. And yeah, he does want you to turn from your sin because he knows what it does to your soul. He knows what it does to your life. If you've lived in sin long enough, if you've walked away and rebelled from God long enough, you know that what I'm speaking, what Jesus speaks is true, that it brings destruction. But come to the one who's called the overseer of your soul, and he will bring abundant life. For in him is life, and life abundant. That's what Jesus says. So let me know what you think in the comments, my friends. I just love to hear from you. I love to read the comments. I like to see what you say to one another. Also, hit that like button so we can get this out to more people. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. Join us on this journey because we want to see many more Christians come to the shepherd and live this life that he made, because together the gates of hell cannot withstand that church. We'll see you next time, my friends. Truth be told.
All right, shout out to Jeremiah. You guys, if you want to check his channel out, make sure you go to Truth Be Told. So that's truth with just the letter B told. We react to Jeremiah often here on the channel. Watch him over here on Cozy Corner TV. He's a channel favorite, so check him out. I will see you guys tomorrow for the daily live stream. Tomorrow is Saturday, so we usually have fun on Saturdays. I have a goal to come to you guys with 2 live streams tomorrow, but that's because one of them is a surprise with a couple of clips I got. So I look forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow. I will see you then. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.